You're watching.
Subscribe.
Hello, you're watching ScreenStalker. My name is Chopper Pete Quinnell, and today I'm going to be taking you through the final episode of Game of Thrones ever. We're culminating Game of Thrones week in style, which is why they've got me doing this video and not anyone else, and not because they were all busy with other stuff. So before we delve into the finale, press the thumbs up, subscribe, enable notifications, and leave us a comment answering the question of today, which today is, what did you think of the finale of Game of Thrones? It goes without saying that there will be spoilers aplenty, not just for the final episode, but for the entire series of Game of Thrones, so proceed with caution. Now, there were several questions burning on viewers' lips after the events of the last episode, but the big one finally got answered in the finale. No, I'm not talking about the Iron Throne. Ghost got the pets he deserves. What a good boy. But before we got there was just a small matter of who sits on the gosh darn Iron Throne. The episode opened up with the main characters making their way through the now torch city of King's Landing. You can tell Tyrion, Davos, and Jon really are not a fan of what transpired, and there's some nasty tension between Grey Worm and Jon. Tyrion goes off to search for Jaime and Cersei and finds them under the rubble. He's understandably quite upset about this. Meanwhile, Jon and eventually Arya join Daenerys after the battle, where she emerges victorious and appoints Grey Worm the major lieutenant overall boss dude of all her forces, and cuts an impassioned speech to both the Unsullied and the Dothraki, saying that the war is not over and that the whole world must be liberated. Nutter! Tyrion casts aside his Hand of the Queen symbol, saying she slaughtered an entire city. He's taken as a prisoner for some reason, despite Daenerys never really taking prisoners, and Tyrion committing treason, which in the show has almost exclusively resulted in death, and the fact that Dany is now insane, which means she is infinitely more likely to kill someone. But you know, it's fine. Jon sees Arya and tells her to get away, and Arya's like, no. Cool, good reunion. Jon then visits Tyrion, and they have a lengthy conversation about murdering Daenerys. Glad they didn't do anything drastic like kill him or listen in to what these guys were saying. That would have been crazy. Dany then goes to the throne room, and contrary to her vision in season 2, she actually manages to touch the throne. But before she can sit down, Jon comes by to have a bit of a natter. He lambasts Dany for killing innocent people, but she does what she does and begs him to be with her and all the usual stuff. He says, "You will always be my queen," kisses her, and then stabs her in the stomach and kills Daenerys. Ha! Screw you, you crazy dragon lady. Now everyone's like, hot damn, that's pretty crazy. And then you realize that Drogon is super duper pissed. He comes on over, sees Jon cradling the now dead Dany, then realizes she is hella deceased, then doesn't kill Jon. Drogon instead burns everything around Jon, including the Iron Throne itself, because symbolism, but just leaves Jon alone for some reason. Despite dragons being pretty gosh darn intelligent and Drogon knowing that the dude in front of him straight up murdered its mother? Sure, whatever. Drogon then scoops up Daenerys and under one of its beefy claws and flies off, carrying Dany somewhere. And then everyone's favorite, a time jump. Suddenly, every minorly important character remaining is gathered in King's Landing somehow, and also they all know about what Jon did to Dany despite there being no evidence at all. Though, knowing Jon, he'd probably just tell everyone, she was my queen, I killed my queen, and he got himself locked up for it. Everyone important except Jon then has a chat about who should be the next king or queen, and then basically everyone just says, hey, Bran will be good because stories unite people? I don't know about that one, Tyrion. These stories in the TV show seem to divide everyone by the looks of Twitter. Everyone then suddenly goes, yeah, the creepy, emotionless kid in a wheelchair is the perfect contender to be a king, and they all vote him in. They now also decree that kings and queens will now be voted upon instead of born into it, which is better, I guess? Then everyone gets their happy endings. Bronn, who randomly reappears, is now the Master of Coin, Davos is the Master of Ships, Sam Tarly is the Grand Maester, Brienne of Tarth is the head of the Kingsguard, Podrick is a knight, Tyrion becomes Hand of the King again for about the 4th time so far, with him hating the role more and more every time because what is sense? Jon is sentenced to the Night's Watch. Is there still a Night's Watch? It's a bit weird if they still have one, really, considering the point of the Night's Watch was to protect protect Westeros from what was beyond the wall. And what was beyond the wall was wildlings and White Walkers, which are now either all dead or friendly. Also, there's a big hole in that wall, so they're not really stopping anything from getting through. But Jon reunites with Tormund, and that's nice, I guess. And he pets Ghost. Finally. Arya decides to go traveling west of Westeros because no one knows what's there. She's now the captain of a Stark ship, it seems? Sure, why not? Sansa declares that the North will remain an independent state, and she becomes queen in the North. Bran the Broken, which is a horrible title, by the way, it's a little bit on the nose, don't you think, is now the king of the 6 kingdoms. I'll give the same review I gave at the time of watching and the review I posted on Twitter, which is, I don't really know what to make of this. The Starks basically rule everything now, and Bran knew this was happening all along. All the conflict is not really tied up, with Grey Worm still definitely wanting Jon and Tyrion's blood. Also, now the North is an independent state, wouldn't that just kind of breed conflict, just like an us versus them, the North versus the South, all that kind of stuff? No? Alright. And I've got 4 potential working titles for some spin-off series, which they'll definitely do, so here we go. The Search for Drogon, a fun kids romp debuting on Nick Jr., where we see old Bran Stark search for the missing Drogon with hilarious sidekicks Podrick and other Kingsguard. Arya's Aquatic Adventures, a thrilling seafaring tale where the ocean and the friendship are as relentless and challenging as each other. Jon and Tormund in the morning. It's a comedy series, which is basically just Troy and Abed from Community. And finally, Meanwhile in Marine, because they never mention anything about Essos. Literally, the entirety of Essos has been taken in Daenerys' name, lastly being watched over by Daario Naharis. How's he doing? Still chillin'? Everything gone back to slavery and such over there? Who cares, really? Clearly not the show. Speaking of things they never followed up on, and what was the point of Varys' letters from the last episode? He was seen writing several pieces of paper to send out to, presumably, the remaining lords and ladies who we saw in the final episode, but it's never mentioned. We see him begin writing them in the daytime, and he's captured for treason at nighttime. So unless it takes him about 7 hours to write one tiny bit of paper, you'd have thought he sent at least a few out to people, but no, never mentioned. So all in all, in a word, I'd say this show was, it wasn't straight up awful, but it most certainly wasn't amazing either. It was curious, which I guess for a finale of one of the biggest TV shows of all time isn't exactly great. A lot of questions were answered, but even more questions opened up. Westeros seemed to have a happy ending, which wasn't exactly happy either. It was kind of middling between good and bad, which leaves you feeling a bit underwhelmed. Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 6 receives a solid out of 10 from me. Well, that was Game of Thrones. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. Leave us a thumbs up, subscribe, and enable notifications to keep up to date with all the other content here on ScreenStalker. If you want to watch more, press the videos that have just appeared on my right to be taken to more. I've been Chopper Pete Quinnell, and remember, except not in the case of Game of Thrones anymore, we're watching.